Here we go then. This is what it looks like at the bottom of the table. Southampton, 6 points after 20 games. Looking bleak for them. But then it starts to get quite interesting because Leicester have got 14 points. Ipswich now on 16. They're level on points with Wolves, who play high-flying Nottingham Forest this evening. And then Everton only on 17 points. But now look, Everton have only played 19 games. They've got a Merseyside derby still to come in the mix with all of that. But that gap then to Crystal Palace, West Ham, Man United, who, on the evidence of the game against Liverpool, have got more to come this season. It starts to kind of break away then. But from Everton down, from Everton to Leicester, it's looking very, very interesting.
I think I get a certain vibe for Ipswich, even though they still make the goals they conceded again was mistakes. If they were able,
so close to getting all 3 points, weren't they?
To the point I wanted them to get it, but I kind of felt I just don't think it's going to happen for them. You know what I mean? I think they've got the same energy as Luton, but I actually think, you know, especially with Delap and Broadhead and Amari, who's now injured, Amari Hutchinson, who's unfortunately now injured, you just do feel that if they can just eliminate the mistakes, I think Everton can get drawn into that, no problem at all, and Ipswich can claw themselves out.
It's a really interesting one because I think Everton, what is keeping Everton out is the fact that they've got so many clean sheets. And if you're going to stay out of trouble, you've got to be good defensively. Ipswich conceding in the 91st minute says to me they're a relegation team because you can score goals. Delap is doing so well and you do have other players in that front six who do have that capability to score goals. But if you're letting them in, then you're giving yourselves a mountain to climb. That would have been a superb point at a really, really hard place to go, Fulham.
Yes, Fulham, yeah.
And they blew it. And however you look at it in terms of how well they played, you can't take that to the bank. You have to be able to see games like that out. And relegation teams can't do that.
It's demoralising because you go back on the coach there, Kels, and all you're thinking about is if we could have just got those 3 points, we've got them next, and we're doing pretty well. We could build on the momentum of that, and then the players go into that place when they're playing, where they get to the 90 minutes, and they're petrified. They're petrified again.
You know,
you don't get anything on artistic merit, do you?
No, you don't.
It's all just about getting the games. And I understand the sort of, you were saying earlier, most managers now have got a way of playing, and they want to stick to it, and then because look, they're not the worst run of results for a team that are inside the bottom three.
But they've got two problems. A, if they can't keep clean sheets, then they can't get out the bottom three. And B, if anything happens to Delap, who steps up to score goals? I like Smodics, he's a good player, scored goals for fun in the Championship and earned that move to Ipswich as a result. And since he's been in the Premier League, he's continued scoring goals as well. But to stay in the Premier League, you need more.
Clean sheets.
You've got to.
Clean sheets. Big Sam used to say at Sunderland, he said all the time, clean sheets. When we get our chances, we make the most of the chances. But you talk about like principles again. You know, managers. You know, listen, I like Kieran McKenna. He was a young player at Tottenham, a good coach and that. But sometimes you have to be able to adapt. You know, the scoreline. You might be winning a game. Okay, can we change a little bit? You know, the environment. If you're away from home, if you're at home. A lot of their results are going to be completely different.
But you were very interesting. We were talking just before we came on about structure. As long as you can always go back to the structure, you should be all right, and you should be very difficult to play against.
Yeah.
But within that, managers will expect players to take on some responsibility themselves. So if you're towards the bottom end of the table, if you're in the bottom three, your players are going to be of a lower quality than the players in the top three of the table. And one of the things that makes them that level of player is inconsistency. Yeah. So how do you then say, well, these are my principles, I'm going to stick with them, but I'm also going to accept that within that the players are more likely to make errors, even if they understand what I want from them. Does that make sense? That felt quite rambling. I was grasping at that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but obviously you're talking about like obviously players taking responsibility. I think you have to do that.
And the fact that they are going to be, the players themselves are going to be more inconsistent within that system.
That's what I talk about. You know, when you're down there at the bottom, I mean, I think your home form is so important because you can play a certain way at home. You can afford to be on the front foot and okay, this is my, you know, this is my structure with the ball. You know, can build up because all teams now, for some reason, want to build from the back. You know, I mean, 15 years ago, that was a goal kick and you kick out the pitch and you play in their half. You play in their half. But now, teams always want to play, and then, you know, you play for the third, you know, you play for the defensive third in the middle of the pitch and that, and then you finish it. But I think sometimes you can do that at home, but away from home, depending on who you're playing against, sometimes you might have to change. You know what, today we're playing the medium block. Not talking about just letting other teams just dictate and that, and we're just not gonna go and press. But sometimes you might have to work on triggers. Sometimes if it's a bad pass, the players know, okay, we might have to go and press then. Or these are the things that you work on in training.
The weakest player. So once it goes to him, bam,
you work on the triggers and that. But I don't think, especially when you're in and around the bottom, we play this way at home. We play that way. Like, you just can't do that.
And you've got that experience of, like, I remember when you were at Portsmouth and you were able to score goals and you had other players like Cranchar and players who just took responsibility because you were playing in the opposition third.
And of course, as well, you talk about structure and formation, but within that, you need players to take responsibility. You need players to do a little bit of magic, and the stuff that managers can't teach. The stuff that, that individuals would just get you out of trouble and just do. Like I mentioned before about when we was at Sunderland, Big Sam, throughout the week, it was all about clean sheets. Everything that we did on the training pitch was clean sheets. And he put the pressure on the forwards. Right then, when we do get the chances, you have to go and take the chances because you might only get one.
And this is what happens when you get a team like Ipswich who have come up. They've come up, and if they could be more solid at home and not make the mistakes like we saw at Fulham and not make the mistakes we've seen them make up to this point, they've got a goal scorer who can score at this level. And that is what those teams normally struggle with.